So hi, I'm Samantha Figueroa, and I am currently running for SGA Treasurer.
I'm Brandon Wharton, and I'm running for Chief of Staff.
My name is Guy Sampson, and I'm running for President.
My name is Kyle Bamberger, and I'm running for Vice President.
And my name is Maya Williams, and I'm running for Attorney General.
Okay, great. What experience do you have with SGA now, or have you had in the past? And we'll just go the same way.
So as a freshman, I served as senator and also sat on the Civic Engagement Committee. Then the following year, I served as the Director of Civic Engagement, and this past year, I took a little break from SGA, but I'm back ready for action.
As a freshman, I was a senator, and then I was elected to be the Government Operations Chair. And this past year, I've been serving as the SGA Deputy Chief of Staff and Press Secretary.
When I was a freshman, I was a justice as well as a justice my sophomore year, and then halfway through the sophomore year, I was promoted to Director of Legislative Affairs, and then from there, I've been serving as Chief of Staff for the last 2 years.
As a junior, I was a senator. I also served on the Community Outreach Committee. In this current year, I went over to the Cabinet, and I've been working as Director of Athletic Affairs.
All right, and I've actually had no formal involvement with SGA, but the past semester, fall semester, I served on the Academic Affairs Committee.
Okay, cool. So outside of SGA, and we'll just keep on the same order. Outside of the student government, how are you involved on Towson's campus and in the Towson community?
So as a freshman, I got involved in Model United Nations, which I founded here at Towson, so that's been an ongoing involvement during my time here. I currently serve as the Vice President of Committees for Phi Mu Fraternity, and I also am a student employee in the Office of Civic Engagement. I work with political engagement, and I also work in new student programs as the Student Director for Human Resources.
I'm currently a resident assistant in Residence Tower. I worked with new student programs over the summer doing Tiger Talks for pre-orientation, and I'm also on the 150th Anniversary Celebration Steering Committee, as well as the Presidential Search and Selection Committee for the next President of Towson University.
So since my time here on campus, I've been able to be part of CAV. I was also an RA. I served in URG on the exec board as well as a building council member. I also served in Homecoming Committee. Also, I worked with NSP as a Tiger Talks. Outside of Towson, I am currently on the USMSC, the University of Maryland Student Councils. It's an overall student council for all the schools in the state of Maryland. I also serve on the Maryland Higher Education Commission Student Advisory Council, as well as the Maryland Youth Advisory Council. A lot of acronyms, but all of those basically, they come together as bodies for all of the student governments together. So I represent Towson in those things.
As a freshman, I participated in club baseball, but then I focused my energies towards Pi Kappa Alpha. I was the philanthropy chair, the fundraising chair, the vice president, the Greek Sing chair, and finally president. My term ended last fall. I am now the executive vice president for the IFC. I'm a two-time orientation leader, and then after that, it's just my involvement in SGA.
All right, and so freshman year, I got involved with the Black Student Union. I'm currently the secretary. Next year, I'll be the vice president. I'm a SAGE mentor. I've been in SAGE since I was a freshman. I was an orientation leader for 2 years. Now I'm the student director for assessment, and I'm also a presidential ambassador and a student ambassador.
And I just want to know, why do you think you are qualified for the position that you want to hold?
Okay, so I think I'm qualified for the position of treasurer because I've had the opportunity while at Towson to work with large groups of students, all from different places around campus, and I feel like that really gives me an advantage because as treasurer I would have to work with a lot of student groups with different like initiatives and things like that, and I feel like through new student programs and also as vice president of committees I've been able to work with students that just have ideas from all over the place and just bringing them together and really grounding them and moving it forward with them.
Yeah, I think that I have pretty extensive experience in a wide variety of ranges on campus. I used to work for the Towerlight at one point. I've been an RA. I've done work with new student programs. I sit on a number of university committees, including the University Senate. And I think all of those have given me a pretty well-rounded idea of how the university works and, more importantly, how we can continue to make it better. More importantly than all of that, though, I think that one of the great things about our ticket is that we have a vision for what we think the university can be.
Why do I think I'm qualified to be president? I think that the biggest thing the reason why I'm qualified to be president is that I feel that I've had a a bunch of experience on campus and off campus. And so being the president of the SJ requires that you understand the on-campus needs of students, working with different students. As I stated previously, I've worked in several different organizations on campus, so I've been able to work with a bunch of different students. And more importantly, as an RA of Prettyman third floor with 60 residents, and also, with Scarborough, we were able to see all different walks of students and being able to work with them. On the outside part of it, I have worked with different organizations outside the campus, and being the SJ president, you have to understand the community at large as well. And so I've been able to work not only with Towson community in Baltimore County, but the state of Maryland. And so both of those things really qualify me for the presidency. But more importantly, like Brandon alluded to, is that our ticket has a vision. And we really believe that our vision is going to enhance the experience for students on campus.
Why I think I'm qualified for the vice presidency is because in my time at Towson, I've been all about representation. Representing different groups, whether that be my own fraternity and motivating younger people like I would have to do with the Senate to try to enhance Towson to the best of their ability, or if it's been with IFC where I'm representing councils that I don't necessarily associate myself with, or even, probably most importantly, orientation leader, where I'm trying to motivate young incoming freshmen that don't know anything about Towson, how the school works, and how they can get involved, and how they can really maximize their experience at Towson. And that's what I would plan to do with the vice presidency. Through my experiences, I believe that I can take that into the job and really help the Senate excel.
All right, and I would love to be Attorney General because I'm a problem solver, and I really feel like that's what the Attorney General does, is solve problems. As being involved in different student groups in different areas of campus, I know the student's perspective, and I know that understanding the Constitution, financial policies, all of that can be extremely confusing sometimes, and it can eventually get student groups in trouble, but I feel like I can be the one to help them through the process and communicate clearly with them to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible.
So this is a slight, and we'll continue to go down the line. This is a slightly more, I guess, philosophical question. Outside of what qualifies you, why do you want to run? Why do you want the position that you are running for?
I want to run because I do believe that students have great ideas, and I really think that the Student Government Association allows students to take their ideas to the next level, and a big part about that is budgeting and finances. And you might have a great idea, but it might be slightly out of your own budget, so I think that identifying with a student group, or even just a student, if you have a really good idea, coming to the Student Government Association, that should be your outlet, and we have the resources, and why not just be able to give them that opportunity to take their ideas to the next level and really give them just that vehicle that they need. So I really believe in that, and that's why I want to be a part of the Student Government Association, and furthermore, the treasurer.
I want to be the chief of staff because I think that really what we need to focus a lot on is advancement. I think that there's a lot of things that we've been doing as a university and as an SGA that have been really good, but I think that we have a chance to make it exceptional. And so that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that when it comes to things like sustainability, like marketing, the things that SGA is doing for students, we're out there and we're at the forefront of it. We've been doing a good job of that, but we could do a better job.
Sorry, now when you say advancement, do you mean within the SGA or the university?
Both. I think that as far as the university goes, you see it everywhere on campus. We're about to have our 150th anniversary. A lot of things are, changing around the university because we're not the same college that we were 5, 10, 15 years ago. Towson University has really evolved into being, the largest comprehensive university that there is in the University System of Maryland, and the second largest campus. It's not the same kind of campus feel that it was once before, and along with that, we have to do some things differently.
For me, the reason why I want to be president is it's quite simple. I've had a lot of great opportunities on campus, a lot of them. And I've been fortunate to meet with a lot of great people, work with them. And the opportunities that I were afforded, I want to make sure that every student on this campus gets the same opportunities. And I think by being president, I'll be able to shape that vision so that everyone on our campus can be able to have the opportunities that I've had on campus. Because, honestly, I say this all the time, is that not only have I learned a lot, I've grown a lot as a person through all of these opportunities that I've received, and I want to make sure that everyone, when they walk up this campus, that they've learned and they're able to grow from their experiences while they've been on here. And so that's why I want to be president, giving every student the opportunity to do the same thing that I have.
When you talk about vice presidency, when you're the president of the Senate, one reason I love the Senate is just representation and being the voice of the students. The Senate's very close to me. I was a senator. And I think it's phenomenal that we have a group of students that is the direct voice of the students, of the student groups in particular. But as vice president, I want us to be even better. I want I want us to outreach the community more and just really be that voice and maximize our voice within the student body.
All right, I would like to be Attorney General because I really feel like there needs to be fairness and equality for all student groups and all students in general at Towson. By being the protector of the Constitution, essentially as Attorney General, that's very important, and that's something that I think that I would be great at doing, and I really think that it needs to be taken more seriously on campus.
Okay. What do you think the purpose of student government is at Towson University? Again.
I really believe that the Student Government Association, the purpose is to represent students, and we've talked a lot about that, and I think as a ticket, our main goal is to really bring together all those different students. So our ticket name is Ohana, and as you may know, it means family from Lilo and Stitch, and that we really thought about that and we were like, yes, this makes so much sense because all of us individually have had the opportunity to be a part of a different type of family, many different types of families on this campus. So tying those together is the purpose of the Student Government Association. Whether it's been said like that or thought about it that way, that's really what I believe it to be. So that's really the purpose in my opinion.
I think really kind of the approach that the SGA needs to take is two-pronged. I think first is about representation. It's about making sure that the folks who we are representing are actually being represented, that we're going out there, we're listening to concerns, and not just listening, but also taking action upon them. We want to make sure that we're on the forefront of issues that are happening on our campus, and we also want to make sure that we're being proactive and taking a look at things that maybe we haven't done yet, that other institutions are doing, or that hasn't even really been thought of on our campus, and that we're bringing that to the table. The second approach that I think is about university advancement and making sure that as a university we're building our brand and that Towson University is even more well known and well regarded.
I think the purpose of Student Government Association, there's several purposes of it. The first one is representation and listening to students. I think one of the things you find out is that you'll talk to someone and you'll figure out some stuff that's going on. You're like, man, I didn't know that because I'm not in that major. I don't live on that part of campus. And so I think a big part is that we have to figure out things that are better for students and what we can do to get there. My second thing, and Sam talked about this, is that Towson's a family. That's why I decided to go here instead of going to College Park. I feel like it's a family, and I really think the Student Government Association, I look at every student group like a miniature family, right? And then we're like the thing that bridges them together. And I think the Student Government Association is about family and bringing everyone together and saying, hey, listen, I know this is your family, that's your family, let's make our family, let's come together and let's all talk together. So I think that's the two big purpose of it, is just find out what students want, doing what they want and getting it done for them, and also at the same time creating a family feel and bringing everyone together, let them know that Towson is about family.
The other members of the ticket have covered, obviously, the family Ohana. One of the great things about Towson when I came here was that people told me it was a big school with a small school feel. And in order to preserve that, that's basically, in my opinion, the duty of the SGA. If we can preserve it being a big school, 20,000 plus students, but being able to bring us together and make change together, that's what the purpose of the SGA is.
I also think the SGA is a place where you can ask questions and reach solutions, even if you're not a part of the organization. That's why I feel so comfortable, even though I haven't been formally involved with the SGA these past 3 years I've been on campus. I've never felt uncomfortable going inside the SGA office, asking somebody a question, getting advice. If I ever had a concern, I've never had a problem asking somebody, what I should do about it. And I think that's definitely what the SGA is here for, to make sure that students' concerns are addressed and making sure that everybody is having the best time possible.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what Maya just said. I think another big thing about the SGA is problem solving. When students have problems, I mean, the big thing about a bereavement procedure was that's a student who came in and said, hey, this is a problem that I'm having, and we solved that for them. We created the bereavement procedure so that when students do go through this situation, they're able to benefit from it. I mean, just this past December, my grandfather passed away, and I used the bereavement procedure, and it felt great knowing that I was one of the people who helped solve that problem, and then when it became a problem for me, I was able to benefit from the solution that the SGA found out or created. So I think that that's a big thing for us, is problem solving.
Great. And you guys can answer these next couple questions. Whoever wants to answer, how do you want to do it? I just want to know, how did your ticket come together? How did the 5 of you decide to come together and run?
I'll answer that question since I'm the head of the ticket. I mean, honestly, our ticket came together, and we don't want to be cliche, but it's Ohana, it's family. I feel like these people that I'm running with, I feel comfortable with them. I know them, they know me, and I also know that when we were created as a ticket, we weren't created just to win. That wasn't our purpose. Our purpose was we were created to govern and lead. And that's why I thought about these guys. I'm like, you know what? Each one of these individuals, they're going to lead together. They're going to govern together. But more importantly, we're like a family. When there's problems, we can talk about it. We'll work it out. Like with any family, you have something going on, you got to talk about it. and we do that. I'm not saying we have any problems, but just saying that we talk about things. We're always on the phone with each other all the time. I feel like I know these guys like my actual brothers and sisters, and so our ticket came together based upon the idea of our Ohana, our family, and just being able to bring their different families together and us being a large family.
So how did you pick the 4 people that are sitting next to you?
How did I pick the 4 people?
Yeah,
sitting
like
next to me?
what was that? Could you talk me through that process? Like, exciting,
I woke up one day and I got a vision. No, I mean, honestly, I know each one of these people in very different circumstances. I'll start with Sam. I was an RA in Prettyman, and Sam lived in the first floor. And she happened to be a resident of my floor a lot of the times too. So she was upstairs with us all the time. So I got to get to know Sam, and I understood that Sam was a leader, and she was about business, and that she was also about student development. And that really makes me proud to know that she really cares about student development. Look at Brandon. I've known Brandon since he was in 7th grade. We're both from Frederick County together. This guy, and we were, yeah, you too, this guy, we were in 7th grade. He was walking around with suits on. This is before Obama was Obama. He was the original one, you know what I mean? And, he's always been about, again, business and leadership. I mean, this guy has been working with student government since he was in 7th grade. I mean, when he was in 7th grade, he was more articulate than most people that were in high school. And so I understood Brandon. I've known him for a long time. And also the great part about Brandon is a part of the Ohana feel is that I've seen Brandon grow up just like I've seen my younger brother grow up. So I've seen him from 7th grade when he could barely wear a shirt because if you think he's skinny now, he was skinnier then. To now it's grown into a man. I really, that really means a lot to me to see someone matriculate through that process from middle school to high school. Kyle Bamberger, I mean, what can you say? Since the moment I met him, this guy has been hitting the ground running. I mean, he wants to be involved. And he wants to be involved because he really honestly cares about students. He cares about the organization he gets involved with. This guy, this whole ticket, but this guy doesn't sleep. And, he does his homework, gets all his work done, but he also works with organizations, and he keeps going and going and going, and I love it. Maya Williams, I mean, how can I start? I could just start by saying this is that she's a breath of fresh air. We talk to Maya, she's positive, she's fun, she's happy. And the funny thing about that is when you talk to anyone else, they say the same exact thing. I've never seen someone where it's almost everything's just, hey, hi, what's up, how you doing? She feels good about it. She knows a lot of different students, and she knows them through a lot of interactions. And I'm like, man, these 4 people, I want to be around them. They're fun, they're happy, they look nice too, So with that, I mean, this came together, that process of just knowing these individuals with different times. I know Brandon the longest out of all of them. I know Sam since she was a freshman. I know him since he was a sophomore. And we met the last 2 years. And so I met them throughout my time in college, and being able to, have different interactions with them and keep in touch over the past 4 years has been tremendous. And so that's kind of how the process went with creating it.
Sorry, Cody, if I can just jump in real quick. Guy and Kyle, you guys both said that you're currently seniors right now.
Yeah,
correct.
So you're obviously going to have to be kind of like extending your stay at Towson, if you will. Is that a decision that you both made consciously? Like, I want to run for SGA, so I'm going to stay at Towson for an extra year? Or were you staying at Towson for an extra year already and then added the SGA onto that?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. My parents were really upset that I had to stay another year. They were banking on me because my brother and my sister graduate next year from high school. So they thought that I was going to be graduating, going to graduate school, and they were going to be coming into college right after me. And so this decision that was made last semester was solely based upon the fact that, I had a different major when I was a freshman. And one of the things that we want to work on with our ticket is advising. I was advised to do some classes that I thought counted towards my actual major of political science, and it ended up not working out. So I sat down with my advisor last semester, and he's like, Guy, and I tell you the truth, man, you're going to have to stay another year. He said, we looked at it, it really doesn't work out, we're really sorry. Me, I'm like, man, I'm kind of bummed about it, but, I've talked to my parents after them, calming down a lot. We were able to see, like, this is the benefit, and that I need to take this year and get my other credits together so that I will graduate. So no, this was not me, like, I'm going to stay another year to be SGA president. It was because last semester I found out through my advisement that I wasn't advised correctly.
Mine's a slightly different situation. I always knew I wanted to go to law school at some point. I had a dual major of political science and economics, and funny enough, it was the director of athletic affairs. Being in that position, I was working with athletics all summer, and I was like, wow, this is really something cool. Like, this is actually something I'm enjoying. And I had this big revelation of what I was going to do with my life, and I decided I wanted to work in baseball, and use my law background to kind of work in personnel, something like that. So I added sports management. And it's been one of the greatest decisions I've made in my time at Towson. I'm actually enjoying what I'm studying even more than I already did, because now I'm focusing on where I want to go with my career. I kind of have it figured out, and it just so happened that me and Guyan talked about SGA after the point. We're like, well, we're staying here a 5th year now, might as well make the move for something we feel passionate about.
As fifth-year students, do you think you'll truly be able to represent traditional four-year students?
Well, you know, it's funny, you know, sitting on my other councils, what we found out is that most students are no longer traditional students. A lot of students are transfer students, fifth-year students, or they're returning students. So I think by us having the experience of actually coming into college as a traditional student, and then now on the other end, we're part of the non-traditional students of 5 years, we can represent both sides of the aisle because now we know what it feels like to come here as a freshman. We also know what it means to stay an extra year, you know, for different reasons, but we understand both sides. So I think that we're going to be able to accurately represent both of those groups.
I mean, I would add, too, that our experience are so extensive that we can relate to many different students. We've been involved in so many different groups that we still reach out to many different students because we understand where they're at. It's not like something that we're completely unfamiliar with what the different kinds of students are doing because we have those experiences.
Is there anything you want to add on to that point? Okay, cool. So just big picture, give me a summary of what your platform is and what do you hope you'll be able to accomplish in the next year should you win?
I think to summarize it, our platform is about family, and that's why we chose to take the name Ohana, because what we want to make sure is, you know, like Sam, her family is 5U, her family is new student programs, and a lot of other things that she's doing. Guyan, his family is, you know, pretty much in Scarborough when he was an RA there. It's SGA, it's a number of other things. We're all part of different groups, part of different families, if you will, on Towson's campus. What we want to make sure is that everyone feels like they're a part of our family and a part of the SGA family. We want to make sure that when people have a concern, when there's something that's happening on campus, and they're like, I don't know who to go to about this, but I saw an email about this, I saw, you know, someone post something on Facebook or Twitter about this, I don't know who to go to, but this is my concern. They know they can come to SGA and they know we'll do something about it.
How will you accomplish that?
So basically what we sat down is, we came together, we sat down, we spent a few hours just thinking about what needs to be done on our campus. And I'm sure, you know, we'll have a little bit of time to talk about our individual initiatives in a little bit, but you know, we talked about, you know, what are things that students are experiencing on campus, what are things that they want to see. You know, one of the things we talked about was the value of a meal. A lot of students on our campus have to deal with a meal plan because you're here all the time, so, you know, why wouldn't you want to eat? But the question is it going far enough for people on our campus? And I think the answer to that is no. You know, $5.75 doesn't necessarily get you a full meal if you're at one of the a la carte locations on our campus. And so, you know, it's things like that. A lot of us have all of us as a matter of fact, have extensive relationships working with fellow students, working with student groups, working with administrators. And so not only do we have a vision for where the campus can go, we know how to get it done.
All right, so since you mentioned individual initiatives, if you guys would like to go down and talk about what you specifically hope to accomplish and how you will accomplish those things the next year should your ticket win.
Okay, so my initiatives are two main ones, and the first one being we have a collaboration fund and a sequel fund and a Prove It fund, which are all part of the SGA. The collaboration fund allows different student organizations to come together and to essentially collaborate on an event or something that they feel passionately about. The sequel fund is for student groups that have almost proven an event to be successful and they can come back again and request the funding again. And then the Prove It fund is something where we allow student groups, new student groups, older student groups to come to us with a great idea and to basically prove that their idea will be successful. So that leads into my idea of a philanthropic fund, because we have seen that service-based learning especially has become really huge at Towson, and we want to kind of take that to the next level, that you can come to us with an idea and essentially it would be philanthropic and you can get involved in the Baltimore community or just the Towson community in general. So that is really important to us as a ticket, and I really do believe that it's become so important to students. So I really think that this new fund will have a direct direction for students to take it in, just like the other funds do as well. So my second initiative is to create a fundraising catalog. So right now, if you go to the SGA website, there's a bunch of different documents on there, and one of them is just advertising ideas. So taking that to the next level is fundraising ideas. So basically having a catalog where student groups can meet that requirement for themselves and have somewhere to turn. Because it is really hard to just, you know, come up with an idea like, oh, this would be really good or this would work really well. But we have those resources that have been tried before, so we want students to be able to access that, to rather than doing all that legwork that has already been done by other students, other student groups, by the SGA themselves, and to just access it and be able to run with that as well, and always being able to add to that idea is really the main initiative. So those are my two.
The first thing that I want to take on as Chief of Staff is taking a look at meeting space and the way that rooms are reserved on our campus. As anyone who's a part of a student organization or has ever tried to reserve a room on this campus will tell you, It's hard. It is a difficult process. Every time I submit the form, it gets rejected for some reason or another. I've entered something wrong. And so it's a little bit confusing. It's hard to navigate, even if you've been doing it for years. Furthermore, it's hard to get spaces on certain areas of campus. We have a lot of buildings on this campus, a number of academic buildings, a number of administrative buildings. So why aren't we using them all to their fullest potential? We know that there are empty classrooms, and so if your student group wants to meet in them, why can't you meet in them? If you have a study group and you all just want to find a place that's not inside of a residence hall or not off campus, you just want a classroom where you can write out things on the whiteboard and you have dedicated space for your study group, why can't you do that? And so one of the things that I want to do is work with the provost office as well as working with events and conference services to make sure that students are able to do that, whether you're an individual student, a student group, or a study group on campus. The other thing that I really want to focus on is talking about internship and employment opportunities for students at Towson. One of the things that we know is, I was just at a Building Our Community dinner last week, 80% of Towson students either plan to or already have completed an internship. Why are they doing that? Because we know that it's more important than ever before for if you want to gain successful employment after you graduate, to have an internship and have that practical experience. So what I want to make sure is that we're working with the Career Center, we're working with all of our on-campus and off-campus partners to ensure that when people graduate from Towson University, they have the experience to enter a job in their field, and more importantly, that they feel ready to take it on, and so that the rest of the community knows that when they have a Towson graduate as somebody they're interviewing, they're the best person for the job.
So I have three main initiatives as becoming president, beyond crafting the vision for the rest of the university. Is that first, I want to reevaluate and see if the plus and minus system actually benefits Towson students. One of the issues that we run into is that being a part of the University of Maryland Student Councils, I work with all the other schools in our system, is that we have some schools who don't have a plus and minus system. So for example, my friend, roommate, he went to Frostburg and they don't have it there. And so, when you come to Towson and you don't have, the plus and minuses, someone could get a 92% at Frostburg, which is an A to them, but to us it's an A minus. And so they have a 4.0, we have a 3.67. I want to see if that actually benefits Towson students, if the plus and minus system actually works. I talked to a lot of students and there's like, I don't like the plus and minus system. It does not benefit me. An 84 should definitely be a B, or it should equate to a B and not have to equate to a B minus in some classes, And another big problem with the grades is that, an 84 in my political science class can mean totally different than in my science class. 84% in science could be a B minus, 84% in political science could just be a solid B. And so we want to figure out a way to see if that actually is beneficial to Towson students. The next thing I want to do is Greek housing. This goes into a larger issue about space. Greeks need space to meet, student groups need space to meet. One of the things that we can do is allow the Greeks to have a Greek place so that they can all meet and they won't take away from the meeting space that other student groups know. As you know, our university has a lot of student groups, a lot of them, and they need places to meet. But one of the problems they run into is that, fraternity and sorority life, they also need places to meet. So it's a lot of times where people are meeting at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. They shouldn't have to do that. Also with Greek housing, it allows us to have a tool for publicizing our university. One of the things we found out when people talk about college, they have Greek housing there, I want to live there. It's a publicity for them. They can actually go there and say, this is a big university because they have Greek housing. Another thing about Greek housing, that it will be on campus. On campus allows people who want to stay on campus to stay on campus. You can still be a part of your fraternity and sorority, but at the same time, you can maintain residency on campus. And on top of all of it is that Greek housing will be paid for by the individual chapters. It's not something the university is it's going to be straight through their individual chapters, through them fundraising, through their national chapter, whatever they want to do. What we want from Towson University to do is look at the space and say, hey, we have some space out here, let's maybe give it to Greek housing. My third thing is that we want to continue to save students money. By doing that, we want a continuation of the discount card. Also, we want to be down in Annapolis lobbying. I know this year, we've been down there lobbying to maintain funds. I talked to one of the reporters from Towerlight saying that one of the biggest difficulties this year was Towson did not get their funding for a lot of buildings that we need. And we need to go after those things. And so those are my big three things from what's
I'm just curious, and I totally understand if you don't have an answer. Where would you put the Greek housing if you went on campus?
So this is funny, I just had a meeting with Deb Moriarty last week, as well as Terry Hall, who is the AVP, and Deb Moriarty is the Vice President of Student Affairs, and I met with Matt Leno, I'm the Director of Greek Life, and then one of the places that we're looking at is looking over in the admin parking lot. That's a place that, maybe could be beneficial to Greek life. One of the things that we found out through research, which I didn't know, is that Towson Place was originally supposed to be Greek housing. Didn't know that. Also, we found out that not New Hall, but Richmond was also was fraternity and sorority life housing way before. So there's some places on campus that we can look at. I know the university is also looking to maybe purchase a new land, but there's a lot of places that we have out there that we're trying to look and see. But one of the main focuses is the area right beside Avenue.
As Brandon touched on, one of my initiatives will be working on raising the amount that a meal is worth. If I was elected, as soon as I was sworn into office, the day after, I'd be down at Auxiliary Services talking about how I can make that happen. Prices are always increasing with our economy. Prices are inflating, and we need to give students the opportunity to keep up and have a kind of an opportunity to have affordable food and beverages on campus with their meal plans. My second initiative would be on the concept of family and representation, is expanding the Senate from 25 members to 29. As everyone knows, this campus is growing. A lot more people want to come to Towson, and that's a great thing. That's a fantastic thing for this university. And with that, student groups are also increasing. And it's becoming very difficult for senators to do a very thorough and effective job of basically representing 8 to 10 student groups that are all very large. So by increasing the Senate, we would have each senator dealing with a smaller amount of student groups and have a more hands-on approach and gain, I guess, a more personal relationship with the student groups to do the best job possible.
All right, my 2 initiatives really have to do with student groups. So first, I want to make sure that we create a fund, working with Sam and the rest of SGA, to create a fund that pays for TUPD and SAFE at student group events. I know personally with my experience with the Black Student Union, we have our large scale events. We have to have TUPD and SAFE present, and that can get very, very expensive, especially because the policy was enacted after our budget was approved and we didn't have the money for it. So creating that will make sure that student groups have enough money to make their events the best that they could possibly be, instead of worrying about law enforcement being at the programs. My second initiative would really make sure that we're looking at the Constitution and the financial policy and making sure that students understand what they can and cannot do by the Constitution and by the financial policy. I know student groups in the past have run into problems with understanding what they can purchase through SGA, what they cannot purchase through SGA or through their budget. And I feel like if we make the policies clear to students, they won't run into that problem and they won't have to fight to get what they need or what they want to further their group.
And we also want to make sure that by reforming this financial policy, that also we allowing more funds to go out to student groups. I mean, there's nothing wrong with student groups doing bigger and better programs. We want to make sure that we reform our policy so that that can actually happen.
Great. So you touched on a couple things, but I want to ask about if your ticket wins, what would you do as a student government, as the representatives of Towson University students? What would you do to kind of reconcile the tension that exists between the campus and the surrounding community?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have to do is we really have to be out there and making sure that we have those relationships with our partners in the community. We have to make sure that they know that, as student leaders on our campus, that we're just as committed as they are to making sure that we have a positive relationship with the community. I think that one thing that can be said for certain is that our relationship's gotten better, and that's a good sign. The issue that's really arisen is that the community was not expecting for Towson University to be as great as it is. They weren't expecting that this many people would say, I want Towson to be my home. But it's actually worked out to be a positive thing for the community. Towson students contribute a lot of money into our local economy. And if Towson University wasn't here, I can only imagine how different it would be. And so what we really need to be doing is going out there, telling our story, talking about what it is that students contribute. When it comes to philanthropy efforts inside the Towson community, inside the Baltimore community, Towson students are doing more than any other group. When it comes to service-based things, we do more than any other group. The big event's going to happen this weekend, and you'll see, a show of force, really, of what Towson students can do when they set their minds to making sure that we're having a positive relationship with our community. So it's about telling our story, and it's also about being receptive to concerns. And that's one of the things, we talked a little bit about Greek housing earlier, is one of the things we've heard from the community is they want more students living on Towson's campus. And right now, we just don't have the infrastructure to support it. So if we can build additional residence halls so that more students can live on campus and they can live on campus longer, if we can build Greek housing so that Greek affiliated students are here on our campus, that's great. And that's listening to the community, that's doing what we can to make sure that we have a positive relationship and that we're seeing it day to day.
Yeah, and just to add on, one of the things that I've been doing this last year is going out talking to people in the community. One of the things that we do is that we go to town hall meetings with the GTCCA and we go to different things, and trust me, those things are intense. But it's good, getting to talk to them. And like Brandon said, we find out concerns that maybe we didn't even look at because we don't live in the community. I talked to a gentleman, he's an elderly gentleman, he told me how different Towson was from when he was here. I mean, he talked about the fact that where there's a Starbucks was a gas station. I would have never even known that. And so he talked about how it's grown and how, it's hurting him, and that these are some concerns that we really want to listen to. Also, I'm a member of the American Legion, my grandfather maybe, but I'm a member of the American Legion in Frederick County, and so I go to the American Legion around here, and I talk to these guys, and they are very open to, like, these are our problems. And one of the things that one of the guys said to me, actually it was the commander of the post, he said, I never felt this way, now that I've talked to a student, I feel so much more open, because he's like, I see that you're receptive and that you're understanding where I'm coming from. I think part of the problem is that the community doesn't think that we want to listen, but we do want to listen. We want to hear their concerns and we want to work with them. And I talked to him for like an hour. I was like, man, I feel so much better. Like, he doesn't really hate Towson. He just, has some concerns about his post. And I'm like, that's understandable. It's like we have things about our campus that we want to protect. So it was great. So that's how we plan on repairing, or not repairing so much as keeping up with the community.
And to add to that, I think we as a student body have to start accepting them as part of our Ohana. Dealing with athletics, if you're looking at bigger schools, SEC schools, that community is drawn to their athletic programs. They want to be a part of that. And I think our athletic program is being very proactive and trying to come up with a game plan that will bring in the community and give a sense of identity with Towson, rather than being the opposing force. So I think if we can keep making progress, keep having events that bring them onto our campus and showing that we appreciate them and we understand that they have concerns and needs too, that will basically just lead to a more positive relationship.
So for the three of you who are in SGA this year, what can you brag about this past year? What did you accomplish?
Man, I tell you what.
Maybe let's focus on one or two.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to. And the thing is that we're laughing because it actually makes us excited. Like, we've done so many great things. One of the biggest things we worked on this year was a syllabus repository. That allows students to know, when you're going to log into a class, like, what am I going to do? You can like see, okay, this is what this class is going to entail. That's a big step. I think a part of the issue is that students don't know what they're walking into when they get into a classroom. So we allow them, doing this by having a syllabus repository, it also allows the student to manage their time wisely and to grow and become more of an adult. Also, a big thing that we've done is...
I'm sorry, what's the status of the repository right now? Is it...
So the status that we're at right now is that at the next University Senate meeting, we should have a proposal for what it's going to look like.
Okay.
The plan is to implement it in the fall semester, and so essentially it'll be organized. It's through a database that archives within the Cook Library already has, and so they're just going to put it there by department. You'll be able to look and see what a previous class was structured like, perhaps even with the professor who's going to be teaching it that semester.
All right, thank you.
Also, through Kyle and his assistant director, Julian Brown, they created the Ambush, and the Ambush is a great student group that allows people to, when they go to games, you feel like you're part of the students, and you know that you're there. When opposing team come here, they're scared. I want them to feel like what they feel when they go to Alabama. You don't want to walk into that arena when you play them. You want to make sure that our students feel the same way about that when they come here. So that's two of the biggest things that we worked on. Oh, but me being a political science major, a big thing that I think that we've really done this year is our lobbying efforts in Annapolis. Two of the big things that we talked about in our Tiger Pride Day agenda was that intern protection. There is no reason in the world that interns are not protected the same way that employees are. That's something that we lobbied on, and it passed. I mean, it passed almost unanimously in the whole body. And the governor, that was one of the first bills he signed on his first signing day. Also, just talking about overall tuition. It was looking like tuition was going to be raised almost 10–15%. But we went down there and we're like, listen, we can't have this high tuition rate. There's the state above us and the state below us, and both beside us, their tuition has gone up tremendously. But Maryland has stayed relatively low. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be better, but, compared to, I think Pennsylvania went up, I think, almost 50% at one point over the past couple of years. Like, over the past 5 years, they've definitely grown. Also, the Maryland Second Chance Act. People deserve a second chance, If you make a mistake when you're 17 years old, that shouldn't be held against you when you're 25, 29, trying to get a job. And so those are big, important things. I think you can talk about something.
Yeah, I kind of joked with the University Senate the last time we were there about how we were producing the State of the SGA address, and we were writing it, and we're like, okay, let's list all the things that we've done, and we're cutting things, we're like, we don't have time to talk about this, let's just make it into, a 5-minute speech, it'll be great. And so we did that, and it was actually a 12-minute speech, and so, it didn't work out quite the way we intended, but what it showed is that we've really been doing a lot. I think I mentioned it, perfectly, for me as someone who's, really committed to how we as a university are continuing to excel. Going down to Annapolis and spending time there was an amazing experience. The story that we were telling was really this. Towson University students matter, and they matter to Maryland. And so we went down with Dr. Chandler when he did his testimony, and one of the things that we heard from University System of Maryland officials, one of the things we heard from legislators was that they were very happy to see that students are so engaged and so supportive and proud of their university that they actually took time out of their day to come down. One of the things that I've learned is that no matter what kind of room or situation you're in, when you're there with community leaders or you're there with legislators, when there are students in the room, everyone just stops. It's almost like time stands still and they just listen, even if they haven't been listening to anything else that's being said. And I think that in doing that, we've really communicated the message about what Towson University is all about and how we're contributing to Maryland.
Kyle, what did you accomplish?
I'd say the thing I'm most proud of within SGA was the way that we handled adversity. Tailgating was a big issue, and that's something that's very close to my heart, being director of athletic affairs. I was planning to try to set up a student tailgate on a Sunday. The next day I walk into the office and Kevin Kuttner's telling me, you can't do that anymore. There's administration is putting a whole kibosh on the whole thing, and my job, and it was really helpful, the whole SGA was very supportive of me, was going in and just being that mediator between the students who were angry about it and administration who was just trying to look out for the safety of the students. So the first thing we did was, after hearing from administration, was we held forums. We listened to the students. We wanted to make sure that they were heard in this very difficult situation. And I explained to them and tried to let them know where administration was coming from. And then from there, after hearing our students, we went back to administration and said we can't have just something that immediately is cut. We can't just cut our school spirit in a sense. And that's been something that's been, I guess, discussed in the whole process when athletics and campus life and campus safety, when we're having these discussions about next year, SG really had an impact in relaying that message from the student body to administration and those other departments so that we have an effective game plan going forward.
I also forgot to mention, one of my biggest things that I really care about is student development. When I was an RA and also when I went to leadership, they asked me, what is your vision for your time at Towson? What is the big thing that you want to accomplish on Towson? And I said, I want to develop leaders. I want people to grow and become better leaders. The biggest thing about me is mentorship. When I was growing up, I was a part of a lot of organizations where people took the time to invest in me and say, look, Guy, we want you to be a better leader. We're going to challenge you and keep going on you, but you're going to be a great leader. One of the things that we implemented this year is we allowed more freshmen into the SGA. And I feel so great knowing that these guys and these girls are going to be great leaders, and that this year they got to learn a lot. He talked about Julian. He's been able to work with him through being his assistant director and being able to see how it is with athletics. Part of the problem that I see is that we have a lot of juniors and seniors who are leaders, but once they're gone, it's like, where's the continuity? Who knows how to do this job? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we did this year was bring in freshmen. So now we know, there's a senior who's leaving, a freshman who's here. There's 4 years of continuity right there. If we continue that, what we're doing now, we're not going to have that problem ever again. So that's actually one of my biggest things too, is the development of student leaders.
Okay. So big question. You can answer this however you want. A lot of people talk about how SGA is just filled with Greeks. Do you think SGA is too Greek?
Not being an SGA, I don't think it's too Greek. I think it depends on who goes for the positions. Anybody can go for these SGA positions. I completely feel comfortable going for Attorney General. I know a lot of my friends now who are not Greek, because I'm not Greek, are running for senator, running for justice. They're not Greek. They feel completely fine doing it. Mm-hmm. If people feel as though SGA is Greek dominant, then I feel like that's a concern that really needs to be raised before we go further, because it's not necessarily a bad thing. As the university grows, Greek life will grow. What they do will be seen more on campus. That's how I feel about it.
And I also disagree, because I believe that it's actually interesting, because like Guyan is saying, that there are a lot of younger students and freshmen in SGA. SGA actually comes first and Greek life comes second, which is really interesting, because if you take an outsider's view, and doing that the past year, it's really interesting, because you might think like, oh, they're in Greek life and they're in SGA, Greek life came first, then it's SGA. Like, no, they might have been a freshman and then they were so enabled and motivated to get involved on campus that they got involved in other places. So if you look at them, they're not only involved in SGA or Greek life, they're in tons of different student groups, NSP, URG, tons of different things. So I think it just goes hand in hand, and being a student leader on Towson's campus, the best thing about it, and I've just learned this through talking from friends at different universities, is that it's a domino effect. You get involved in one thing and it'll open tons more doors for you, because you'll talk to someone in an organization, they'll be like, hey, come to this meeting with me, or hey, recruitment's coming up, things like that. So I think that it's just, it's from an outsider's perspective, you think that, but it's really not like that, and I think that that's something really important to consider as well.
And I think our ticket was very conscious of that. We have 2 Greeks on our ticket, but the majority of our ticket is not Greek, and we respect that opinion. At the same time, the Greeks they're kind of taught by Matt Leno and a great staff to be very integrated with the campus. So I think the Greeks just kind of feel motivated, but at the same time, I think there's a great representation that's not.
Thank you. All right, Guyon, this is for you. Setting the record straight. Do you pay for parking on this campus?
Every student is. I'm glad you asked that question, Cody. I think that there's a misconception out there about the parking, and I think that it needs to be addressed. And I'm glad that you did some research and found out that I think the misconception is that the president of the SGA gets free parking, not because SGA pays for it, it's because he's a member of the Board of Visitors. Every member of the Board of Visitors get free parking because it's paid through by the foundation. And so by him being a member of the Board of Visitors, that's how he gets his parking. I'll tell you one thing. I've gotten so many tickets on this campus, I've paid for my parking several hundred times over. I mean, I'm telling you, my parents, they've seen the building like, Guyon, if you get one more ticket, we're taking your car home. And also, when I pay for parking to begin with, they're like, Guyon, we're spending $333 on parking this year. And so that's what it is. I mean, I'm glad you raised that question. I'm glad the misconception is finally answered, that the person who gets it is the SGA president. It's not through the SGA, it's through the Board of Visitors. My parents will tell you, if I get one more $75 ticket from parking, they are going to be livid. My mother called me today.
So did you buy a parking pass for the 2014-2015 school year?
My parents said that I paid for one, so.
Okay. Brandon, did you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think the misconception there is, and you know, just to completely set the record straight, is that what happens is there is a designation placed on a previously existing account that says if you're a member of the SGA Executive Board and you're on official business, you're meeting with a vice president over in the administration building, you're meeting with an associate vice president in the union, you can park on the faculty staff sections either in the administration lot or the union. Just those two spaces on campus when you're on official business. It's only to be used when you're going to a meeting or for something like that. It's not like, you know, if you're a member of the SGA Executive Board, you can park anywhere on campus. That is not
That
the
is
case
not
at
true.
all.
That is
And,
not true at all.
Guyon and I are, I think, competing for parking tickets at this point because we both have a lot of.
We don't know how to read the sign. That's what I've been told. So, but I'm glad that you asked that question. I know that you've done some research yourself and you found out the truth to that, and I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, of course. All right, Brandon, there's a question for you.
Yes.
Deputy Chief of Staff is a new position this year.
Correct.
Do you think it was a good idea, or is it something that you would like to see kept in place? And most importantly, do you think it's worth the $5,400 of student fee money that goes toward your paycheck?
Well, I'm not sure entirely that the 5,400 number is entirely accurate. The way
It's
that it
on the
works,
budget.
it's a projection,
Right.
And that assumes that I've worked, you know, every single week over the summer and everything like that.
Right.
So that number's a little bit inflated, I would say. But I think the position has been great. As a matter of fact, you know, it's been like, you know, we're at this point where we're like, what in the world did we do before we had a deputy chief of staff? Because what it allows is for Guyon to spend a lot more time focusing on the ins and outs of the executive cabinet. The executive cabinet has expanded pretty rapidly this past year. We have over 25 members in it. And so because of that, the way that we do things internally is a lot different. You know, so while Guyon's focusing on managing the cabinet, focusing on advising the SGA president, going to meetings with administrators, it allows me the opportunity to do a lot of the things that I like to do. Deal, you know, with the press as our press secretary, to be focusing on planning SGA events, our retreats, and things like that that are all about leadership development.
Okay. Thank you. So I would like you, really quickly, this is a question for really we're focusing, sorry guys, on what SGA has done the past couple years,
Right.
get the records out there. So I met with Vicky over the past couple days, and we've gone through some records and pulled some receipts and stuff. And I just want to know if you guys had any knowledge of, you know, whose decision was it to buy, you know, in addition to the polos, the Oxford button-downs, you know, why is so much money, you know, I think it was, you know, we spent $1,375 on 55 polos and $1,650 on 55 Oxford button-down shirts. Do you think that kind of spending was justified, and will you, you know, go and look for that same kind of apparel next year?
What I will say is this: we are very judicious when it comes to the spending that we use for internal projects. And that's why the vast majority of our budget is dedicated to going to student groups and to student organizations on campus. The administrative overhead that we spend for the SGA accounts for less than 15% of the budget, which is pretty consistent for, you know, any kind of department that you're running. As far as the apparel specifically, every year the SGA typically has some kind of dress code. We do that for a number of reasons. The first reason is just like other departments on campus, whether you're talking about presidential ambassadors, student ambassadors, RAs, we want people to know kind of what our brand identity is.
Right.
You know, it's helpful for us when somebody's wearing an SGA Oxford or an SGA polo, and someone comes up to them and they go, you're in the SGA, I have a question for you. And then they come back to us and they share it during student concerns during our meeting. That's really helpful to us as an organization. It also is great for recruitment because then we're getting our name out there, we're getting our brand out there, and people are like, okay, the SGA, what do they do? How can I get involved?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would venture to say that's probably why a lot of people are running this time around. Furthermore, I look at it in terms of really an issue of fairness. I think that it's important for any kind of organization to kind of set standards for what their members are doing, how they're dressing, and I don't think that it's fair of us to say that if you don't have a button-down shirt, you can't be in the SGA. We don't want you to be a part of our organization, and so we look at it as we'll provide it for you. That way, it's not an issue if somebody feels like, oh well, I don't have these things, so now I can't be a part of the process. We don't want anybody to feel that way ever.
Okay. What about, I know there are also, the exec board has those jackets, and I know members of the SJ also have those pullover LB quarter zip jackets, and I know there are those really nice pad folios that the members have. Do you think that spending was all justified?
I think it was, and I think it goes back to Brandon's point about, first of all, with the jackets of the executive board, that was an idea that was processed by the Vice President of Student Affairs and the AVP of Campus Life, and we talked about how at a lot of universities it's a tradition for the executive board to wear jackets. And a part of the jacket is this, it makes you identifiable. So when you go to me, they know that's the SJ president. Kevin and I are walking for him to give his speech, and someone said, hey, you elected official, can you please help us out? And Kevin's like, I'm the president, I can help you out. And also a big part of the socioeconomic status is that we don't want that to play a factor in whether or not you run for president. If you run for president or any other position on this exec board, you should feel comfortable. And I want students to know that they don't have to go out and buy a whole new jacket and whole new suit and everything. They can come in here and they can be as equal as everyone else dependent upon your social economic status. The same thing with the jackets, with the apparel. I mean, when I think it's student ambassadors, when they go out on tours during the winter and during the rain, they have to wear a jacket. And so they can be identifiable. Same thing with us. We have events off campus or on campus that we want to make sure that we're still warm and stuff like that. We can have something to put on. So I think that that's a good question to ask, but a lot of these things are about the professionalism, equality, and branding. We want to make sure that people can identify who we are. And that's the reason why police officers wear uniforms, firefighters wear uniforms, is because when you see them, it's like, I know who you are. And that's one of my biggest things, that every time I wear my SGA polo, someone's like, you're an SGA, can I talk to you? And it's like, sure.
And I want to answer your question too about the portfolios too.
Same kind of thing.
In the previous year, what we had is we had these big bulky binders. Essentially, the cost difference really is not significant.
Okay.
Because the issue is this, or I shouldn't say the issue. The great thing about the SGA is that we work with a lot of different vendors. We're tax exempt because we're part of a state institution, and we have a great relationship with a lot of outside companies. And so everything that we've bought this year has been at a markdown. We haven't paid a setup charge for anything.
Right.
We're always focused on, when we spend money for the SGA, is it something that's actually building our brand and making sure that people feel more comfortable with the SGA?
Okay. If elected president, if you guys win, will you purchase those same kind of things for SJ next year?
I'll be honest, I'll reevaluate. If that is a true issue, then we will reevaluate and see if it's actually needed for the SGA.
All right, thank you.
Oh.
Short on time, sorry.
Understand.
So this is another spending question, I guess. So I was meeting with Vicky, again, going through costs, and came to find out that the SJ has taken at least two pretty large trips this year to Arkansas and to New Orleans. And I was looking at just the New Orleans trip, and some of the receipts that were refunded were $94 and $72 at the restaurant, valet parking at a Hilton a couple of days, a rental car for while you guys were down there, and I even saw $45 on liquor at a restaurant while you were down there, and that was all refunded with student fee money. So what did you learn at the American Student Government Association conference in New Orleans?
That is false. That was not refunded. We do not pay back alcohol.
Okay.
If you saw a receipt on alcohol, it was, but I want to make this evidently clear.
Okay.
We do not, as an institution or the Towson University or the Student Government Association, pay for anyone to drink alcohol.
Okay, so that $45 was not, but everything else was refunded.
No, that's not true also. So for example, let's say I turn in a receipt that is $50, right? But the state per diem only allows me to eat $10. I get refunded $10. I turn the full receipt to let them know how much money I spent. And so a lot of times you may have seen a receipt for, let's say, $50 or $70, $70 for example. That's for 5 of us who have eaten together, which equates to maybe $12 per person, which is a part of our state per diem. Also with the looking at the rental car, that's because we had to have it. Also looking at the, well, I want to make it clear why we have these things. With the parking, that was because the hotel required us to do that. And that was, yeah. New Orleans is so weird. I didn't know this, but you have to pay for parking regardless of wherever you live. I mean, wherever you're staying. So our hotel said you have to use this when you stay here. So it wasn't, trust me, Kevin went around for 2 hours to try to find free parking. We could not find it in the city. But I'll tell you this, at the ASGA conference, I learned so much about conflict management, women empowerment. We had a women empowerment leadership that I did not know a lot of things that women are going through to be leaders. Conflict management, I learned a lot about how I can change things, how I can be better. Also, while we were down there in New Orleans, we went and visited Tulane University. Met with their SGA, met with their Greek housing staff to talk about what can we do at Greek housing. The same thing at Arkansas. We went down there, it was a jam-packed day about Greek housing, SGA, and what we can do to benefit those things and how we can do better at those. So every trip that we've ever taken have been about business and business only. But I want to make it evidently clear that the only time that we get money back is for things that are allowed by the state of Maryland and that are approved by the Vice President of Student Affairs, the AVP of Campus Life, as well as the accountant. We do not just spend money and get it back. And alcohol is not one of them. I'm sorry, Cody, I'm not trying to be defensive, but I want you to know we do not get paid back for alcohol.
I understand. I probably should have worded that. You know, I just saw there were refunds on there. It wasn't, I wasn't clear on the alcohol. That's why I was asking about it. I wasn't clear if that. But other things are reimbursed to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the expense on the trip, including, the airfare down there, the hotel, the lodging, do you believe that what the SGA refunded you guys, do you think it was worth it?
Yes, it was an amazing trip. I learned so much about how we can do better at our SGA and what things that we can bring here. I think it was great. I mean, this is something that we allow for other student groups to do too. We allow them to send their executive boards to conferences and they can bring back things as well. So this is something that's not out of the realm. I also want to point out that URG, they go on a national conference every year as well as a regional conference. NSPA, I think they're the National Association of Student Professionals, or they go on a national conference. This is a very common thing for groups to go on national conferences and to go in different conferences. So we're doing the same thing. We want to better the SGA as well. And so if we see URG doing it, we see RAs doing it, we see Student Affairs doing it, we also think, hey, this is a great idea. And I also want to point out that these trips were things that the Vice President of Student Affairs and the AVP of Campus Life also said these are great things for us to do. So, yes.
So you do think it was worth the money spent?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And I want you to know I wasn't trying to attack her. Like, I just wanted to clear the air.
No, and I'm glad. I
don't
like you don't want to attack it.
Issues that I've discovered going through the records.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure you know, alcohol and those type of things, we don't get reimbursed for every single thing that we spend. Right? We only get reimbursed for what the state allows for us to get reimbursed.
I understand. Thank you. And I'm actually, just so you know, I am meeting with her again to look at the full files for both of those trips, to see, just so you guys know that's in the pipeline. And I may have more questions for you about that later. Okay, great. And then I also wanted to ask if you could just briefly compare the process that a student group or a senator would have to go through if they wanted to get some funding compared to the process that a member of the executive board or the executive cabinet would have to go through.
Explain the process of funding.
Like, so say there's a senator who wants to get money for an initiative. What kind of process do they have to go through?
So they turn in an internal expense form.
Okay, and is that the same process that the cabinet or the board would have to go through?
Any member of the SGA fills out an internal expense form.
Mhm.
That then goes to whoever the designee is that's designated by the president. So if you're a senator, that would go to the vice president. If you're in the cabinet, that would go to the chief of staff.
Okay.
They then review it. It has to have research attached with what we're spending the money for, if it's something that's appropriate, if it's something that we feel is benefiting students at large.
Mhm.
If that's the case, then that's approved. From there, it goes to the SGA treasurer, who also takes a look at it, sees if we have the money in our accounts to do it, and also, it serves as another check to make sure we're doing something that's appropriate for the student body. From there, it goes to the SGA president, who has the ultimate authority to just say, absolutely not, or, okay, I think that this is something that is beneficial, and upon the advice of everybody prior in the process, this is something that I'm going to go along with as well.
And then it goes to the accounting person who says whether or not we have the funds to do it and whether or not it's appropriate. And then it goes to Terry Hall to say yes or no. And then from there, it also has to go again to the Vice President of Student Affairs.
And before we even get any of that money, it all has to be, the entire budget has to be approved by the SGA Senate.
Right.
Yes, everything has to be approved by
Which
the Senate.
includes not each individual initiative, but the budget as a whole.
Yes.
The budget as a whole, as well as line items that are designated for specific purposes.
Yes.
Right. But isn't there a line item for some sort of discretionary spending?
Yes.
Okay, so that is approved, but then how that is spent exactly is not approved each time.
No.
By
I'll get what you're
the
saying,
Senate or
yeah.
by.
Correct.
Do you think there is a place or room, or do you think it is necessary for any sort of more oversight on that internal initiative spending?
I think that's appropriate. I think that the Senate were to say, hey, we want to know about this discretionary spending. That's totally within the realm. I mean, the United States Senate does it often.
Mm-hmm.
When the Secretary of State goes abroad, and like, what did you go abroad and why did you spend this? Like, what was going on? And they're able to explain it. Then I think it opened up for air. So I think that right now we have a system in place that if senators want to know what's going on, they have a lot of time to talk about it. During student concerns you saw yesterday, you can raise a student concern.
Yeah.
Also during our pre-meeting, you can raise those concerns. You can have a meeting and say, we need to know about what is going on. And I think that is appropriate, and I think that is fair.
So as, if you guys make it into office next year, would you pursue some sort of creation of an oversight committee, or maybe expanding the powers of either the
Well-
Senate or the judicial branch to do that kind of oversight, or would you continue to make it an offer that, you know, you guys can do this if you want to, but we're not going to make it an official
I
process?
think first you have to notice this is that the Senate already has the power to do it.
Right.
It's not us. We don't have to form it for them. And also, I want to make it evidently clear that we don't have the power to give the Senate that power. They have the power to give it to themselves. And so I would empower them to say, if you want this to be there, you can do it. I personally, if I'm elected president, I can't do that. None of us can do that as being executive.
understand.
Only the Senate can do that.
Right.
So I think it's appropriate, but I want to make it clear too that as of right now, they can do that.
Right.
And as vice president, if they were open to that, that's something that they wanted to pursue, I would completely support that.
So if it's something that the Senate wants, you would be all for it. You would help them work through the channels, help them navigate
Yeah.
what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily something that's on the top of your platform.
I would say the top of our platform is most definitely accountability for the finances of the SGA.
Okay.
That's why, last year I worked with our Attorney General, Andrew Key, and we created an ethics and standards
Yeah.
policy so that if somebody feels like funds are being misappropriated, that somebody's acting not in accordance with their official duties and not performing what they should be doing as an SGA member and as a student leader on this campus, they can file a complaint, and that's something that's going to be heard. If it's an executive board member, the Attorney General is not even a part of the process. It goes
Yeah.
to the President Pro Tem or the Senate. And so, we have standards in place to make sure that if people feel like something's not being done right, there's a process to go through that's fair and that's equitable.